We're at TVLine's Comic-Con suite with the cast of Legion. Welcome. I love this show so much, I'm confused half the time now. So I have a question for you. Fess up. How often are you confused by the show, and when do you go to the producers to ask for clarity?
Most of the time.
Often.
Yeah. Can you give me a specific example of something that you're like, help me understand this?
One time I was like, who am I? Am I real?
She was. She said that.
Yep.
And this is what I did.
I
said,
And then we made a series.
Yes, you're real.
Dan, what about you? Anything?
Well, you know, I'm kind of confused by life generally, and so I was going to the producers for sort of life questions, which were sort of incidental to the show but fed into the show.
But
So it was
when we made the first hour, you had a lot of questions that I said, yeah, you don't need to worry about that right now.
Yes.
Be in this experience, and then, but then after, I sort of laid out what we were gonna do.
But it was
Cryptically.
be in this experience, and then I thought there was something that would come after that,
Yeah.
and there wasn't.
No.
that was the end of the sentence, really.
Yes. Be in the next experience.
Be in the next experience, and then there were more experiences.
Yeah.
The astral plane was a little hard to wrap my mind around at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The green box. Acting in the green box.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's been a dream of mine to work in a green box.
The show is so gorgeous. When you're shooting it, did you have any idea of how it was going to actually look?
A lot of it was a surprise, and I mean a really pleasant surprise. You know,
Yeah.
like when you go in looping and see something, and
Yeah.
But some of those sets were very cool. They were very cool spaces to inhabit. I particularly like the. Is it a diorama? Cyclorama. What's the 360?
the hospital.
It's
The
cyclorama, right?
yeah,
With the goat
Clockwork?
and the wolf and the
Oh,
I remember
yes,
some of
yes.
that.
sort of
Oh,
down
yeah,
in the
yeah.
bowels of something like this round thing with all the colours on the wall, and I really like that space.
Yeah.
The Zen garden outside.
Part of the fun of making an ensemble where everyone's in their own storyline is that when you finally show the cast, they don't really know what it all is together. You know, Dan knows the show he's in, but often Gene's in a different show and Rachel's in, you know, and so when you put it all together and see how it cuts and with the music, and obviously there's a very kind of hypnotic pattern to the cutting style, and so the script doesn't really indicate what the show is going to be in the final, it feels like.
Rachel?
There's something to say, Rachel. Share with the rest of the class.
She's so high right now.
Legion.
Where are you in the process for season 2?
I think everyone here has read at least one script, and I have some more that I'm working on, and we start shooting on September 5th. So I think we're hammering our first nails today on the sets and everything. Yeah.
Aubrey, are you anxious, scared, curious what crazy shit they're going to have you doing this
All of the
season?
above. All of the above. I just sit and stare at my window and wonder, like, what's gonna happen? Just all the time.
Was there a highlight in season 1, something that you got to do where it was just like, this is pretty rad?
I got to do really my first real like harness stunt with Brad, and that was really fun because I'd never done that before. So that was great.
And Dan, are you anxious to see what it's going to be like not having this parasite in your head and sort of like your full use of your powers?
Is it full? We're working up to fullish.
Fullish.
Yeah.
And there may be other things in there as well.
I see something.
There's something in there right now, is there? Yeah. It's showing. Yeah, I mean, there's also, the scope for Legion, is massive, and the cosmos is very large, it turns out. And
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is you have a character who can blame every bad thought or every bad thing he's done on the entity that's now gone. Now is he thinking, well, I'm just purely a good person and every thought I have is a good thought, and there's sort of a hubris to that.
yes,
So,
and the identity of illness as well. That people's attachment to something that may be living inside them, or a sort of a bad entity. It's an interesting story to look at illness in that way, in the way that people do sometimes identify an illness. They give it a persona almost. And,
and the idea of what's normal and what reality is that we continue to play with.
Still not sure.
Yeah.
Still not sure.
I want to continue to make this a parable about mental illness and not just have been a gimmick to get us into a superhero show. So I think we'll continue to explore those ideas.
How are the discussions going with Fox in terms of an X-Men reference?
You know, I mean, I don't have a lot of conversations with them about it. You know, obviously we have, we're true to David's origin story, and we've introduced the fact that, I mean, I think the fan base knows who his dad is, and the Shadow King plays into that dad story. We're not racing toward the reveal, but I do think that it's natural for David to have those questions, and you know, we'll get there eventually.